Hey there. Have you ever been in a conversation where someone asks, "So what did you do today?" and you just freeze? Your mind goes completely blank even though you literally just lived through an entire day. You start thinking, well, I woke up, brushed my teeth, had coffee. But that sounds incredibly boring. So you end up saying, "Oh, nothing much." And then there's that awful awkward silence. If this sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. Today, I'm going to share the exact formula that will transform your daily routine into engaging conversation material. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll never run out of things to talk about again. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of the most common conversation struggles that almost everyone faces but rarely talks about. Studies show that 75% of people feel anxious about small talk, and the number one reason, they think their daily life is too boring to share. But here's the thing, this couldn't be further from the truth. The problem isn't that your life is boring. The problem is that you haven't learned how to frame your experiences in a way that connects with others. Every single day, you encounter stories, observations, emotions, and experiences that other people would find fascinating. You just need to know how to present them. So today, we're going to break down why your brain goes blank in conversations, the psychology behind interesting storytelling, my proven 4-step formula for turning any day into conversation gold. Plus, I'll give you 15 specific conversation starters you can use immediately. Let's jump right in. Why your brain goes blank. First, let's understand what's actually happening when you can't think of anything to say about your day. When someone asks about your routine, your brain automatically filters for significant events. But here's the catch. Your brain's definition of significant is usually way too narrow. It's looking for things like a period, major achievements, dramatic events, unusual occurrences, life-changing moments. Meanwhile, your actual day was filled with small moments, observations, interactions, and thoughts that your brain dismisses as not important enough. This is called the significance filter, and it's killing your conversations. The boring life myth. Let me give you an example. Sarah thinks her life is boring because yesterday she went to work, had lunch at her desk, walked her dog, watched Netflix. But let's reframe this. At work, she noticed her colleague always eats the exact same lunch, a turkey sandwich, apple, and sparkling water, and wondered what it says about people who crave that level of routine. While walking her dog, she realized that every dog owner has a completely different relationship with their pet, and she started categorizing the types she observes. She discovered a new show that made her think about how streaming algorithms seem to know her better than she knows herself. Same day, completely different level of engagement. The difference? She learned to notice and frame the details that make ordinary moments interesting. There's also a social pressure component. We feel like we need to impress people with exciting stories, so we automatically reject anything that seems normal. This creates a conversation paradox. We think normal equals boring, but relatability equals connection, and shared experiences equal bonding. As Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. The goal isn't to impress, it's to connect. What makes something interesting? Before we dive into the formula, we need to understand what actually makes something interesting to another person. Research in cognitive psychology shows that people find things interesting when they relate to their own experience. "Oh, I do that too." Reveal something unexpected. I never thought about it that way. Evoke emotion, whether it's humor, curiosity, or empathy. Provide social insight, understanding human behavior and relationships. Offer a new perspective, a fresh take on common experiences. The mirror neuron effect. Here's something fascinating. When you tell a story, mirror neurons in the listener's brain actually fire as if they're experiencing what you're describing. This is why detailed sensory descriptions are so powerful. Instead of, "I had coffee this morning," try, "I had this moment this morning where I was making coffee and the smell hit me, and I realized it's probably the most consistent sensory experience in my life. Like this daily ritual that grounds me before everything gets chaotic." The second version activates multiple areas of the listener's brain: memory, sensation, emotion, and self-reflection. The curiosity gap. Psychologist George Lowenstein identified something called the curiosity gap, the space between what we know and what we want to know. Great conversationalists are masters at creating these gaps. You know what I noticed about people in elevators? I had the weirdest realization while stuck in traffic today. There's this thing my neighbor does that makes me question everything about social norms. Each of these creates a curiosity gap that makes people lean in and want to hear more. The stack method. All right, now for the main event, the formula that will transform how you talk about your day. I call it the STACK method. S for situation, T for thought, A for action, C for connection, K for kicker. Let me break down each component. S for situation. This is the basic event or moment from your day, but here's the key. Choose micro situations, not macro events. Macro, boring. I went grocery shopping. Micro, engaging. I was in the checkout line behind someone buying 47 cans of cat food. Other micro situations. The moment you realized you were walking in sync with a stranger. The split second of eye contact with someone through a window. The feeling of stepping outside and noticing the temperature change. The realization that you were humming a song you didn't remember starting. The situation doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be specific and noticeable. T for thought. This is where you share what went through your mind in that moment. This is crucial because thoughts are what make us human and relatable. Continuing the cat food example. I was in the checkout line behind someone buying 47 cans of cat food, and I couldn't help but wonder, do they have 47 cats, or does one cat have very expensive taste? Thoughts can be observational thoughts. I realized that. Emotional thoughts. It made me feel. Analytical thoughts. I started wondering why. Memory thoughts. It reminded me of. Philosophical thoughts. I got to thinking about. The most engaging thoughts often start with, I realized, I wondered, or it made me think about. A for action. This is what you did as a result of your thought, and it doesn't have to be a big action. Continuing our example, so I casually glanced at their other items to gather more clues. Turns out they also had 12 bags of kitty litter and a single banana. The mystery deepened. Actions can be physical, so I decided to. Mental. I made a mental note to. Social. I wanted to ask them about. Observational. I started paying attention to. Experimental. I decided to test whether. The action shows your personality and decision-making process, which helps people understand who you are. C for connection. This is where you tie the experience to something universal or relatable. Example continuation. It got me thinking about how we all make these snap judgments about people based on their grocery cart. Like, I probably look like someone who has no life plan because I always forget to buy actual meals and end up with random ingredients that don't go together. Connections can be universal experiences. Everyone has felt this. Human nature. It's funny how we all... Social observations. It says something about how... Personal insights. I realized I'm the type of person who... Life lessons. It made me think about... This is where the real bonding happens. You're essentially saying, here's something we probably have in common. K for kicker. The kicker is your closing thought. It could be funny, insightful, or thought-provoking. Final example. Anyway, I left wondering if they ever actually counted to make sure they had exactly 47 cans, or if they just grabbed a bunch and hoped for the best. Either way, that cat is living better than most humans. Kickers can be humorous, a funny observation or punchline, insightful, a deeper realization, reflective, a personal takeaway, curious, an unanswered question, relatable, a shared experience invitation. Let's see the complete example. Situation. I was in the checkout line behind someone buying 47 cans of cat food. Thought. I couldn't help but wonder, do they have 47 cats, or does one cat have very expensive taste? Action. So I casually glanced at their other items to gather more clues. Turns out they also had 12 bags of kitty litter and a single banana. Connection. It got me thinking about how we all make these snap judgments about people based on their grocery cart. Kicker. Either way, that cat is living better than most humans. Notice how this transforms a mundane grocery store visit into an engaging story that reveals personality, creates connection, and ends with a smile. 15 conversation starters using daily routines. Now let me give you 15 specific conversation starters you can adapt for your own daily experiences. Morning routines. I had this weird realization while making coffee this morning. You know what I noticed about my morning commute? I caught myself doing this thing while getting ready that made me wonder. Work or school? There's this person at work who always, and it got me thinking about, I had one of those moments today where I realized something happened in a meeting today that perfectly illustrated food and meals. I was making lunch and had this random thought about, you know what's fascinating about the way people eat? I tried something new today and it made me realize. Technology and media. I was scrolling through my phone and noticed this pattern. My Netflix algorithm suggested something that made me question. I had to troubleshoot this tech problem and it reminded me of social observations. I was people watching today and saw this interaction that there's this thing I keep noticing about how people. I overheard a conversation that got me thinking about your turn. Practice exercise. Here's what I want you to do right now. Think about something that happened yesterday. Anything. Apply the stack method. Practice telling it out loud. Notice how it feels different from just saying nothing much. Let's do one together. Think of the last time you were waiting for something, an elevator, your food order, a traffic light. Got it? Now, situation. What specifically were you waiting for? Thought. What went through your mind while waiting? Action. What did you do during that wait? Connection. How does this relate to waiting in general or human behavior? Kicker. What's a funny or insightful way to wrap it up? See how even waiting becomes a story worth sharing? Advanced tips and common mistakes. Advanced tips for conversation masters. The detail principle. The magic is in the specific details. Instead of, I saw a dog, try, I saw this golden retriever who seemed to be genuinely smiling at every person who passed by. Emotional weather reports. Include how things made you feel. It was one of those moments that made me irrationally happy is much more engaging than just describing what happened. The callback. Reference earlier parts of your story. Remember that cat food mystery? Well, I saw the same person today. Question bridges. End stories with questions. Have you ever noticed how, or does this happen to you too? Common mistakes to avoid. Not everything needs to be shared. Avoid overly personal details that make people uncomfortable. The monologue monster. Remember, conversations go both ways. Don't talk non-stop. Leave space for the other person to respond. The humble brag. Don't hide bragging behind casual conversation. People can always tell. The negative spiral. Complaints can be funny or relatable sometimes, but if every story is about something annoying, people will tune out. The perfectionist. Pause. Don't wait for the perfect story. Start practicing with small, everyday moments. Remember, the goal isn't to be a professional entertainer. The goal is to be real, human, and easy to connect with. All right, let's wrap this up. Here's what we covered today. Why your brain goes blank. The significance filter. What makes conversations interesting. Relatability, emotion, and new perspectives. The stack method for turning any moment into a story. 15 conversation starters you can use right away. And some advanced tips and common mistakes to avoid. Here's the truth. Your life is already interesting. You just needed the tools to share it better. Every single day, you live through dozens of little moments that could turn into great conversations. The difference between people who are good at small talk and those who aren't isn't that their lives are more exciting. It's that they know how to notice and tell their stories. So here's your homework. For the next week, try the stack method on one thing that happens each day. Say it out loud, even if no one's around. Trust me, it gets easier, and soon it'll feel natural. And now, I want to hear from you. Write in the comments one thing that happened to you today, and try using the stack method. I'll be checking them out, and I promise you'll be surprised how interesting your ordinary day actually is. If this video helped you, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more tips on communication, confidence, and connection. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Remember, you're not boring. You just haven't learned how to share your story yet. Now you have the tools. Go out there and let people into your world. They're ready to listen. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.